The new iPhone 12s are here, and wow, this year is great for creators. So yesterday was the iPhone event that we get every year, and to be honest, I wasn't that excited for this one, but I thought, I'll sit back home and I'll give it a watch. And actually, I was quite blown away. I think if you're a video creator, you're really gonna like this year's iPhones. There's some new updates. There's basically an iPhone 12 mini, which I'm really excited about because I've got the iPhone 11 Pro here, and even though it's not too bad in size, I would prefer it to be slightly smaller. So let's talk about that iPhone 12 mini first of all. Usually when you get the SE models or the smaller iPhone models, they come missing lots of the features that you get in the Pro models. But this year, you actually get a lot of the Pro features in the iPhone 12 mini. So I'm gonna go through some of the features that are included. First of all of the iPhone 12s have 5G. And they showed on stage that you can get speeds up to about 3 to 4 gigabytes in the best conditions. So if you're editing a video or you need to upload to Instagram, YouTube, you're gonna be able to do that in literally seconds, which is crazy. There's new improvements to the screen. There's an edge-to-edge Super Retina XDR OLED display. So it's improved from the LCD display of last year's standard iPhone 11. So that's great to see that you're gonna get a really, really good display on this iPhone 12. There's improved cameras, and we'll go into that in a bit more in a moment. There's now night mode on all of the cameras, which is really great. So you now get it on the front selfie, you get it on the wide and the ultra wide, which is great to see too. And Magsafe is back, thank God. I used to love Magsafe on the side of the MacBook Pro, and now they've added it as a wireless charging option on all of the iPhone 12s, which basically mean you can plonk your iPhone onto any MagSafe charger and it will magnetically find the right point and start charging your phone. So that's going to be really interesting to see. Also, there's 4 times stronger glass on this year's iPhones, and they're apparently 4 times stronger than any other phone. So let's talk about the improvements to the camera system. They say there's now 27% more light for photos and videos, and they've done that with an f1.6 lens. So this not only means you'll get more bokeh in the background for your portrait shots and your videos, but you'll get improvements to color as well. So this is going to be really great to see. They did show off some examples of the photos and nighttime photography, and it really blew me away. This looks really, really good. And if you're not familiar with cameras, f1.6 is an aperture that you only usually get in some very, very high-end lenses. So to have an aperture of f1.6 on an iPhone is pretty incredible. Next up, we've got 4K Dolby Vision in HDR. Now, I thought this was just going to be for the Pro models, as I didn't really mention this earlier on, but it is actually across all of the iPhone 12 models. So whether you go for the iPhone 12 mini, for the iPhone 12, the 12 Pro or the Pro Max, they all have this 4K Dolby Vision in HDR on the screen for playback. The photos also have HDR3, so this means you'll see better improvements between shadows and highlights. So for example, if you're out on a sunny day and the sun is behind you, you should see that the iPhone uses its computational photography to actually light your face, so you won't end up sort of being in the shadow. So it's going to be interesting to see how this looks in the real world, and of course we'll be doing some tests here on the Editor's Keys channel, so make sure you subscribe and hit the notification if you want to see these tests coming up. Now, a bit more on the iPhone mini. I'm just going to go through some of the specs. The iPhone mini has a 5.4-inch screen. The current iPhone 11 Pro has a 5.8, so it's going to be a little bit smaller, roughly about there. It has an A14 Bionic chip. There's a dual 12 megapixel camera for the ultra wide and the wide, the f1.6 aperture that we spoke about, and there's 4K up to 60 frames per second and HDR video up to 30 frames per second. One area I was worried about with the iPhone mini was battery life, and there isn't a lot of information on Apple's website at the moment, but essentially all I could find was video playback on the iPhone mini is around 15 hours, and on the normal iPhone 12 it says it's up to 17 hours. So you are of course in a smaller phone going to get a little bit less battery life, but we're going to have to test that in the real world. Okay, so now let's talk about the Pro models, the 12 Pro and the Pro Max. Now, they of course have 5G like the other iPhone 12 models, which is great for just general connectivity, but of course you can download and upload video super quick if you're in a 5G area. They have the A14 Bionic chip, the XDR display, but some things they have which the lower end iPhone 12s don't have. Number one, they have LiDAR scanners. So this will essentially scan a room in 3D. It'll also scan subjects. So if you're filming video or taking photos at night times, it will be able to, in 3D, scan and detect the person and then adapt the autofocus for that person in 3D space. So it should mean essentially your photos and details are a lot sharper using the Pro models of the iPhone 12. There's now a 7-element lens built into the camera and an in-body stabilization which has 5,000 adjustments per second. Now the iPhone 11 Pro, when I've taken that out, the shots are super steady already. It's already like you're using a gimbal. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this new kind of built-in IBIS works in conjunction with the already super great stabilization. I'm really excited to see how that performs on these new phones. Now, one thing I thought was a little bit concerning was the Pro Max has a lot more features this year than just the standard Pro. Usually they're kind of matched up, but this year they've taken the Pro Max to a whole new level. So let me know what you think about that in the comments below. But essentially the Pro Max has a 47% larger sensor than all of the other iPhones. It's 87% better in low light, which should mean you should have some incredible photos and videos. And there's now a 5x optical zoom. I've never been that impressed with the zoom on the iPhone 11 Pro. You know, it's one reason why I'm thinking about getting the iPhone 12 mini with the 2 cameras, is because I don't really use the zoom on this. But with a 5x optical zoom on the Pro Max, this could be really good if you are doing landscape photography or if you just want to use it for video creation. The next big feature for photographers is the inclusion of Apple ProRAW. Now, ProRAW essentially gives you all of the same standards as RAW photography, but it also includes the Apple pipeline data. So all of the exposure settings, the color settings, all things like that. So you have much more detail to work with when you get into programs like Lightroom or even Final Cut Pro 10. Now, the iPhone 12 Pro Max is the first ever phone with Dolby Vision, and this jumps the iPhone 12 from filming in 8-bit to 10-bit. Now, this is pretty incredible. If you're a Sony shooter, we've only just got 10-bit recording on the Sony a7S III, and this is a £3,500 camera here in the UK. There are other cameras that can film in 10-bit like the GH5, but to see 10-bit Dolby HDR recording on a phone, which costs £1,000, is pretty incredible. I think a lot of people are going to be using the iPhone 12 Pro Max as possibly like their main camera for doing YouTube or for doing, you know, side projects, side videos. I mean, you probably still wouldn't want to take an iPhone to go do some wedding shoots or to a professional shoot, but you essentially could. That's the interesting thing. With the low light capability, the stabilization, the HDR in 10-bit, it's going to be really interesting to see just how good the photo and video comes out on this camera. You can also even edit this footage directly on the iPhone itself. You've always needed quite a high-end rig like in Final Cut, Premiere or DaVinci to be able to even edit 10-bit HDR Dolby Vision footage, but you can apparently do it with ease on the iPhone 12 Pro Max and iPhone 12 Pro, so that's going to be interesting to test that out. Also with the Pro Max is that you can use HDR Dolby up to 60 frames per second, whereas on the 12 and 12 mini you can only do up to 30 frames per second. So there you go, that's a quick roundup of that. We're going to try and get in the iPhone 12 mini and the iPhone 12 Pro Max here into the studio, and we're going to do a versus test. We're going to test out all the video features of both of the phones and let you know what we think of those. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to see those videos. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.